First and foremost, I want to give all honors and praises to the great King of the universe, to the God of our fathers, to the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yaakov. That's to be translated as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right now, we are sitting with a diverse panel of members from the Hebrew Israelite community. And regarding a lot of the statements that have been made in the media, we would like to take the time out to address some of the various statements or misstatements that have been made. Before we begin, I would just like to pass the mic around and have each one of the members of our panel introduce themselves, and then we'll discuss a list of questions and have the final thoughts from each member regarding the events that have been happening over the past 2 weeks or so.
Giving all praise and honor to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And my name is Chief Benjamin Ben Benjamin.
Shalom, shalom. My name is Rabbi Kapus Fanam, Chief Rabbi of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis.
I'm Rabbi Shlomo Ben Levi. I'm the President of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis and the spiritual leader of Beth Elohim Hebrew Congregation in St. Albans, Queens.
My name is Rabbi Eliyahu. I'm President of the New York Local Board of Rabbis and Chairman of the Israelite Vision Council.
Kol HaKavod, giving all praise to the King of the universe. My name is Rabbi Baruch Ben Yehuda. I'm the Executive Secretary of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis and the spiritual leader of B'nai Kol Beit Yisrael.
Good afternoon. My name is Rabbi Yeshurun Ben Levi. I am the Rabbi Beth Shalom Hebrew Congregation, 730 Willoughby Avenue, Brooklyn, New York.
I am Zakar Ben Dan, one of the speakers and member of Congregation Beit DCB located in Brooklyn, New York. And the questions will be posed to anyone on the panel. Please feel free to answer. Can you briefly describe to us what is an Israelite and what's the difference between the Israelite and the Hebrew Israelite?
Israelite is a biblical term that describes the nation of Israel. In contemporary terms, it also refers to various organizations. And those of us who are members of the Israelite Board of Rabbis trace our organization back to the founding of Rabbi W.A. Matthews, who started Commandment Keepers Congregation in 1919. There are many other groups, black and white, who refer to themselves as Israelites. No group has a monopoly on that term, and every group has a theology and a history that describes their connection to it and their belief in it. And what we wish to do is for people to understand who we are. And we believe that this is a matter of prophecy, that it is a scriptural connection. We do not necessarily use it in a racial term. We understand that race is a European concept and a European word. We respond to it, and we are proud of the fact that we believe that the original Israelites, the people described in the Torah as Israelites, if they were alive today and we applied European definitions to them, they would be considered black because they are of African descent and African origin. It's also important in terms of we do not promote racial thinking, but it is our approach to combating the concepts of white superiority, right, and white supremacy, which has depicted them as white. So we feel both in correcting the historical record and also including our people in an identification that this is their history, their culture, that what would nominally be called Judaism is not foreign or alien to them. And I think what people often assume, or some other Israelites who disparagingly use the term in other ways, describe it as a kind of racial group. But I want to be clear, we are proud of who we are. Just to say that the original Israelites were black, if we apply European standards to them, does not mean that there aren't white Jews that may also have the same heritage, but through their history may look different. And we look differently all over the parts of the world, but we have a common origin. And lastly, I would say we do believe in peace and love and brotherhood and respect of all human beings, whether they're Israelite or any other thing. The Torah says we were chosen as a people to be a light unto the nation. And what we are supposed to teach them is the concept of love and brotherhood and respect. And that's what we have stood for. And I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that.
I just want to follow up with the question that Adon Zakar asked about what is the difference between an Israelite and a Hebrew Israelite. Well, the terms, as we've gone through history, biblical history, the term Hebrew was associated with Abraham and all of his descendants that followed thereafter. He was known as Avraham HaIvri, Abraham the Hebrew. The Tanakh does not particularly use the term Hebrew Israelite. It is almost a redundancy. However, there are groups that define themselves as Hebrew Israelites, and we have no problem with that. The issue is that when the media picks this up, they try to paint in very broad strokes who is associated with these terms, Hebrew, Israelite. There was a time where most of what you know as mainstream Jewry used the term Israelite. There was a time in their history where they decided to stop using that term for their own purposes. But it does not in any ways cause us to have a resentment for anybody who uses the term, nor should the terminology that any other organization uses be taken to put everybody who uses the term Israelite under the umbrella of how their doctrine or how their dogma is determined.
So how do you make your people aware of your communities? Do you use social media, books, radio shows, television, or what types of outlets do you use to make people aware of your communities as well as your teachings?
We use many forms of social media to get our message out. Many congregations do live streaming of their services. So we have social media with the express purpose of putting out our information. We have our website, blackjews.org, for instance, where you can tune in and get to the history of our organization, the International Israelite Board of Rabbis. There you will see a statement to the equality of all humanity, which is very clearly delineated within the context of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis. But I believe strongly that in messaging, and it is important that the message go out about the Israelite community to, as simply stated before, to state that there are differences between various organizations.
Yes, and as we just mentioned, that social media is actually a platform that many congregations use to get the messages across, whether it's through Sabbath services or whether it's just posting videos or posting information. There has been and still are current, newspapers within our community that publishes articles, relating to current events within our community, as well as, it's available to a broad audience. So whether it's social media, whether it's newspapers, whether it's contacting, television stations or radio stations in order to promote the word of the Most High God that we try to promote, and also promote our culture and our nationality, we tend to use whatever media is available to us to promote that message.
So, as we mentioned, we have multiple organizations here represented amongst a diverse Israelite community. What I want to ask for those who choose to respond, are your particular organizations labeled or mislabeled because of your teachings?
When the media, we've all been talking about these broad strokes. When the media picks up anything, for example, and I'll speak directly to an issue, the Jewish Forward put out a news article about the situation that took place in Washington, D.C., with the Native Americans and the high school students, and they said they were Hebrew Israelites were at the center of the problem, et cetera, et cetera. And two things were interesting. First, that the pictures that they put up had nothing to do with the encounter that took place in Washington, D.C. The pictures that they put up were photos from a 2016 event, another event where Chief Benjamin was speaking or teaching. They put up pictures randomly of our community that had nothing to do with what was going on there. And we contacted them. They took down the pictures, but there was not enough in their paper as to why they took down the pictures, right? So anybody seeing it just continues to associate everything that everybody says with everybody who dons the term Israelite, but of course, if they're black, because the white organizations that use the term, they weren't depicted in any of those photos. And it's continued. There was another article in the Washington Post. There was a TV on Fox 5 where the gentleman was doing his best to explain to them that everybody is not the same, and without question, it was deliberate. The gentleman, I forget his name, who ran the interview, continued to goad and try to engulf the entire community into what he was trying to produce as a hate group. So, of course, there's mislabeling. Of course, there's and unfortunately, it appears that it's deliberate. And so that is why, thankfully, the Brotherhood of Congregation DCB came together and contacted different members of the community to get together to have this forum, so that what we can do is, you know, it's one thing when someone else tells your history or tells your state of being or tries to tell the world who you are. It's another thing when we get to explain it for ourselves and prayerfully make everyone understand that we're not trying to disparage anybody. Only thing we're saying is this is who we are. We've been doing this, as Rabbi Levy said, since 1919. This community has been in full existence and has proliferated throughout the country and the rest of the world. There are other organizations as well who understand themselves to be Israelites, and we work together and we do things together, and it's not a problem. The strain that brings us all together is that we are trying to observe the laws of Torah and be peaceable and good citizens as we do it.
The analogy that I made right after the incident Rabbi Baruch referred to is that after 9/11, many of the news outlets would say things like Islamic terrorists. And they were lumping all Muslims, almost 1 billion Muslims on this planet, with the actions of a few people. And so as they became more educated, they would refer to specific groups, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, right? But now say all Muslims. And so the same thing to understand that the Israelite community is a nation of people. It is a faith community. And many people ascribe to that, so that the responsible media should identify the congregations. And we all have congregations, as we've identified leaders of congregations, to say this is a person who's representing this congregation or that organization. As a rule of thumb, I would say, all the media that we use, whether it's on television, on the internet, if you visit our congregations and our outreach methods, you will never find us insulting people. We are never rude. We are never racist. We respect all people and their differences. So I would say to anyone watching this video, if you ever see an Israelite behaving in ways that don't comport with that, then they are not a member of this community.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your responses. And I am going to indicate that I'm probably going to resurrect this question because you really didn't answer my question. But I'll let you know exactly why. But I am familiar with the articles that you mentioned, the one in the Post, the one in the Forward. And one of the things that I noticed is after they took that article, those photos down, they uploaded some new photos of different groups of Israelites which were, again, unassociated with the incident at the Lincoln Memorial. What happened is most news reports indicate that there were approximately a handful of people at that incident, 4 or 5 individuals, maybe 6, but yet most of the photos that they upload that they associate with those articles indicate menacing groups of 25 to 30 individuals, which actually isn't representative of the events of that day. But the reason I asked this specific question was, are your specific organizations mislabeled or labeled because of your specific teachings? We understand what the media has done in grouping all the Black Hebrew Israelites together, but are your specific organizations mislabeled because of your teachings?
My specific organization is not mislabeled, I think because I have a broader outreach than many of my other brothers and sisters. However, I do want to say this, that Hebrew Israelites believe that we are a part of the house of Israel. We are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Many times the media makes this seems like it is something that is taboo. And we believe, and we have a right to believe. This is our faith. So that our holding on to our belief, we have no issues with any other religious organization or entity that believes in the manner that they believe. This is what we believe. And so you must simply not ascribe hatred because we believe that we are descendants of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. And I don't know if anyone else would like to add to that.
And once again, to add to that is, on the part of the congregations that are represented here, it's not mislabeling, because as just stated, this is something that can be also proven, through various means, that we are the children of Israel or we are Israelites. So it's not a mislabeling on our part. What the media and other people try to do, and it's not just with, Israelites. We live in a society where negativity is promoted. So when you live in a society where negativity is promoted, whenever you can find something that is negative in any nationality, any belief system, or any group, that's what media, especially here in the U.S., would try to promote. So when you have an incident that took place a couple weeks ago, and they're looking for a scapegoat, and they find a group of Israelites within that incident, they're going to focus on the negativity. So any, television reports or any newspaper tends to focus on the negative aspects of what they consider an Israelite to be. But, in terms of our congregations, we're not being mislabeled because we're labeling ourselves based on what we can prove, reading Torah and through other means.
Yes, sometimes the media does mislabel our organizations. And when we do go out amongst other organizations and to other congregations and to other synagogues, and the question is asked, well, who are you? Where do you come from? What is your background? We are very sharp on how we respond to the people who are asking the questions. And in their minds, sometimes they do mislabel us. But when they begin to sit down and talk with us and find out what our thoughts are and how we think and what we do, they come to find out that we're not that much different than the rest of them. But there are groups out there that will give us an improper outlook on how we think and what we feel. In my travels that I've been around throughout in my travels and going throughout various congregations, I do sometimes have to explain because they have the wrong impression. And then when we interact with them and find out, they come to the conclusion, hey, you know what? These brothers, this rabbi knows what he's talking about. So yes, the label sometimes does come along with misinformation. And some of us, we are ready to respond to that as well.
You asked the question. They don't. So far, whenever we meet to have an interview or something, that's always the first question. So you're with these. No. This is who we are. But you call yourselves Israelites. So does that, I mean, everyone who calls themselves a Christian, we can go ad nauseum of the groups and the things that use the banner of Christianity for whatever scope they want to use it for. And they do not just lump every Christian in with the David Koreshes and et al. Jim Jones, you name them, the Ku Klux Klan. So it's always the option of people who are interviewing or people who are, as Rabbi Yeshurun said, meeting us for the first time. That's always their first thing. They want to lump you in and they want to, make you a part of something that they can. That's what sells papers. That's what gets people's attention. Our story's boring. We're the children of God. We're trying to attract the children of God and do godly things. Nobody wants to print that.
I can make a final comment, and here I'm speaking to Israelites who may be watching this video in the future. In the Torah, in the final book of the Torah, Devarim, Moses says to the children of Israel just before they enter the promised land, when you go into that land and the people of that land meet you and they see the kind of laws, commandments, statutes, and judgments that you have, they will say about you, what a wise people. What a wise people that have laws that have them conduct themselves in such a manner as this. And so if you call yourself an Israelite, whatever congregation you belong to, whatever organization you belong to, if you are not bringing honor, respect, and dignity to the God of Israel and to all people who honor his name, then you bring disrespect upon all of us and embarrassment upon us. So as an individual, each of us in our own activities reflect collectively on all of us.
I want to thank you gentlemen all for the variety of responses, because I think one of the things that it shows the uniqueness in just amongst the individuals on this panel. And if you see such a diverse uniqueness amongst the individuals on this panel, then obviously it would be very inconsiderate for you to label a whole group of people when you can see just the members on this panel with a various diversity. So I understand that there's already a public statement made on the Israelite Board of Rabbis page, and I know Congregation Beit DCB is also preparing a public statement to be published within the next day or so regarding this incident. What I want to ask is, do you gentlemen believe that such statements like this should continue to be republished? Or is this something that you believe is a one-time thing that will create the effect that we're looking for in amongst the news media?
I believe that the organizations must become proactive. Israelite organizations need to be proactive and not necessarily reactive. I think that we need to have our statements posted as to who we are, so that the media outlet, the media organizations can go in and read for the various congregations what they believe, statements of what they believe, statements of what they practice, so that it's already in writing. And you can simply say, this is what who we are. This is what we believe. We cannot speak for other groups, but we are speaking for our entity, for the International Israelite Board of Rabbis, and for some of the congregations that are members of that board. But we need to speak with one voice, a voice of understanding, a voice of commitment, a voice of compassion, and the voice of truth.
I have a question for all of you that are on the panel. Sam Kastenbaum has been a reporter for the Jewish Forward. He's currently a reporter for the Washington Post, and he did a expose on Israelites, or the ones that were out there that day by the Lincoln Memorial. He's done many stories. He's done many stories on us, on our communities. He's been to our congregations. He was at the chief rabbi's inauguration, and all of these different stories. So how do you feel about him doing a big expose on Israelites and not giving us the courtesy or call to say, where do you guys stand on this before I put this article out? Because he did a article, I believe it was on January 22nd. It was an article in the Washington Post. How do you feel about him and the article that he did? I don't know if you guys read it, but not even giving us a courtesy call in order to say, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. Do you guys want to leave any quotes? Do you guys want to say anything?
So for anyone who has read the article,
I think that's a very good question. I think this guy, Kassenbaum, I think we as a board, as an organization, need to put him to task. We need to have our point of view made clear to him of what we believe in, and he then, in turn, could talk to a person at Fox News to make sure that the message is clear, that we are not a militant bunch of people, we are not wild, we're not unruly, and we don't hate. We live according to Torah. There's a difference between calling yourself an Israelite and calling yourself a Hebrew. A Hebrew lives according to the Torah. I don't care what your nationality is. You could be born an Israelite and be wicked. Korah was an Israelite and he went down in the ground. Okay, Balaam talked to God, but he wasn't an Israelite. So the issue is your behavior. And when you classify somebody blanketly with a broad stroke, that they're all militants, they're all hate groups, I think that's unfair. I think it's it's not fair to us as a people.
I spoke with Sam Katzenbaum, and he offered his sincerest apologies, and he apologized very much. As a matter of fact, he said to me that some members, I believe, of Rabbi Binyamin, Chief Binyamin's congregation, spoke with him and set him straight. I know personally that Rabbi Yeshurun ben Levi, because he was sitting directly behind me, called him over and dressed him down. And Sam came to me before he left this conference I was at earlier this week and again apologized. Now, he stated that he has not been with the Jewish Forward for over a year. And so therefore that he would have, if he had been there, that he would have stopped the photographs that were downloaded representing our congregations with the other folks that were at the Lincoln Mall. So I believe it was a mistake for him. I did not read the Washington Post article, so I cannot speak to that. But evidently, he felt that he had sufficiently done a disservice to the Israelite community that he felt the need to apologize for it, for whatever the storyline or however it came out that he wrote. And I don't know, Benjamin, if you have something to say about that, because I didn't really read the article.
Yeah, for a few of members of Congregation Da'at Kakma spoke to Sam over the previous weekend and addressed the article in the Washington Post that he wrote. and like you said, just let them have it and let them know how the entire community felt about that article.
Right.
And as he did to you and to everybody else, apologized for the article itself and whatever misrepresentations may have been brought forth in that article.
Blessed be the name of the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Beautiful meeting, beautiful dialogue. I'm a very young man in the community. There tends to be a gap between our generations, physically as well as intellectually. And meetings like this bridge that gap. I thank all of the panel members, starting with Chief Rabbi Capers, as well as Rabbi Levy. I have a great deal of respect for the work that you put in. Here's what I would like to say, very, very brief statement. I think that the media does a very good job of using an emotion-filled rant, such as what took place, to get Israelites or to get groups of black intellectuals to condemn one another. I want to point something out before this meeting closes. What is not focused on that took place that day was that particular day was an indigenous march. The students at Covington Catholic High School, they were there in disdain of that march. They showed up with red MAGA hats in support of Trump, who was a person who was notoriously in support of building a wall between indigenous people as well as non-indigenous people. And what is also not referenced is that the high school that these children are coming from has a history of racist rants themselves. In 2015, the children of Covington High School wore blackface to a basketball tournament and began to taunt black players. This is on the internet. This is on YouTube. The media does not focus on that. They focus on the behavior of those Israelites present. Now, while I will speak for my generation and tell you that many of us place a distance between the methodologies and the behaviorisms that the Israelites displayed that day, but nonetheless, I think it would be very premature, for lack of a better term, to be utterly dismissive of our brothers' actions, because they are our brothers. Regardless of their behaviors, regardless of their mannerisms, they are our brothers. If a fight would break out, those same brothers would be there to aid all of us. So while we are dismissive of those brothers' actions, I just think that we do a disservice when we almost give in to the media by being dismissive of their actions, which is correct, which is right, but not also taking the time to address the issue that is clearly at hand, which is the point of those young men that showed up that day from Covington High School. They did not come there for a peaceful journey or peaceful gathering. They came there to protest an indigenous march of indigenous Native Americans. That's what they were there to do. And they all wore red MAGA hats, and a kid who is no more than 15 years old can be seen in that video taunting an elder that could be old enough to be his grandfather. And they don't address that. So in closing, I would like to say that I am totally in agreement with the panel's dismissive attitude towards the abrasive actions of our fellow Israelites on that day. But I do want to call to attention that in more ways than one, we do a disservice when we are not equally pointing out everything that occurred on that day. And with that, I say Baruch Hashem.
I just want to just state for the record that in none of our comments, and because you're right in this way, media always does things to play and make people try to do divisive things. It is important to note that our comments here are in disdain of actions, not of people. I'm quite sure there are members of the groups that you may visually look at and say they are connected with the men who were down in Washington, who also deplore violence, who also deplore disrespect. So our comments are not blanket. They are directed to those, as Rabbi Levi said, who would not bring honor to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we do not, and I thank you, young man, for making the statement. We do not want it to be taken from this panel that anything that we are saying is broad-stroked or inclusive of everyone, but the message, as Rabbi Levi said to Israelites directly, our mission has been and always must be to give honor to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And anything that we do outside of that is dishonoring him. We understand anger. We understand the feelings of disrespect and oppression and the when they condescend and in our young men, there's a boiling up and sometimes they don't always know how to express it. I also want to say about those organizations that I've not seen them talk about we're going to come and do anybody harm or literally doing anybody harm. They may talk about what they feel is the end result or how they view prophecy or so forth and so on, but they're not picking up weapons and going into movie theaters and shooting up people. So we need to temper this with how we're going to do.
Thankful for the comments because I believe that all of the information that's brought forth is important and it's actually timely. I do believe that God has things happen for a reason. The first thing I just want to kind of clarify, you referenced the MAGA hats. With those MAGA hats, I presume you're referring to the Make America Great Again hats, correct? Okay, so just to clarify the MAGA issue, and being that you raised that issue, it actually is a perfect segue into the last question right before. Have you considered, and I'll just pose this to Chief Rabbi as the final question, and then if we could just go through and each individual provide the contact information for their individual congregation on how they can be reached. But I'm going to just pose this last question to you, Chief Rabbi. Have you considered exploring the idea of developing relations with those sects of Hebrew Israelites that the media has portrayed in print and in photo to preach hateful rhetoric?
I'm not opposed to reaching out to any group. Chief Rabbi Levi Ben Levi, as a matter of fact, established Article 801A that sought to reach out and to speak to the different perspectives of various Israelites. So I'm not opposed to that whatsoever. However, I am not a Christian. I am an Israelite. I do not follow the teachings of any element or aspect of Christianization of Christianity. So therefore, I work with Christians. I know that they're Christians. I work with Muslims. I know that they're Muslims. So when in working with Muslims and working with Christians, I think that some of the thing also comes in when people said, oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and their teachings are outside of the pale of the Torah, of the Tanakh. This is America. Everyone has a right to define what they believe and how they believe it and so forth, but we also have the right to define. We have the right to define who we are as a people, as a community of God-fearing Israelites. You can reach our congregation at in Chicago, Illinois, at 6601 South Kedzie Avenue. Our telephone number is 773-476-2924. You can also reach us via our webpage, www.bethshalombz.org, and all are welcome to join and to come and worship with us.
For congregation Da'at Kakma Ubina, you can log on to our website, www.baitdcb.org, and that's baitdcb spelled BEITDCB.org. And they also email us via info@baitdcb.org. So that's info @BEITDCB.org.
Bet Shalom Hebrew congregation located at 730 Willoughby Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. We can be reached on blackjews.org. You can locate and you can find our telephone number there as well.
B'nai Israel, unfortunately, in November of 2017, I forget the year, changed already. We had a devastating fire, so we have been worshiping around our community. Most times you can find us at with Rabbi Yeshurun at Beit Shalom. You can reach us, however, at info@B'nai, BNAI-ADATH, B'nai.org. And also you can go through the blackjews.org website to get any of the rest of the pertinent information.
My name is Rabbi Eliyahu. You can reach me at 347-475-0669. That's Beit Tekiah. Or you can send an email at hammurabi2@AOL.com. That is HAMMURABBI2, like the number 2, @AOL.com. Shalom.
And my congregation, Bethlehem, can also be found at the umbrella site for Black Jews at blackjews.org, which lists many of the congregations on this panel, others that are not here, others around the country and around the world. And you could also get details about our history, about our leaders, and more detailed descriptions of our beliefs.
And once again, I just want to thank all of you gentlemen for taking out the time to try to clarify some of the things that have been happening in the media. And I believe I can speak with one collective voice when I say to the media outlets, please understand that when you refer to Hebrew Israelites or Israelites, you're referring to a group of diverse organizations, and you need to be clear when you perceive a story, when you're preparing a story, please be clear to make the separation between who is involved from all the others, individuals or organizations who profess and claim that same name and heritage. We fully understand that the severe oppression that we've been dealing with has caused a lot of feelings, a lot of mental instabilities that have yet to be corrected. But us, as the individuals here, we do not preach hate. Our God, the God of the Torah, the God who has given us the Torah, has told us and taught about we justify the righteous and we condemn the acts that people perform. I thank you all for your time, and I offer all honors and praises to the great King of the universe, the God of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Thank you very much. Shalom Lakol.